goes up in the morning, the sunrise, and the light falls on the lotus flower, which is all closed up, that's when the light opens up those outermost petals, as long as it's accompanied by warmth, the light and the warmth. And in this simile, the light stands for mindfulness, the warmth stands for kindness. You need both of those two things, the warmth and the light, the kindness and the mindfulness, to open up the lotus. And as you open up, first of all you have your body, and your body is old or young, male, female, transgender, whatever. You find that that becomes kind of insignificant. As it opens up, you go to what's inside of that. And in this meditation, as long as you maintain the mindfulness and the kindness, those two things is all you have to do, kind of. So it's not a complicated method of meditation, but it's also very, very effective. So once you go inside your body, the next thing which I usually ask people is to go inside the mind, and one of the first things to do is to go inside of time. Inside of time, there's no past, no future, but just go into this, right in the center of this present moment. There's one beautiful method, which, sometimes I forget these methods, but I was reminded of when I was in Ho Chi Minh last week, was the simile of carrying the suitcases. And I'm sure you've all done this before, carrying two heavy suitcases. When you keep carrying them for too long, you do find that you get very tired and you get very weak, and sometimes it aches so much it can even hurt your arms. So in this part of meditation, to get into the present moment, I imagine I'm carrying two heavy suitcases, and I imagine I can feel the weight on my arms and my hands too, scrunched up all the time. And then I pause and I imagine the suitcase in my left hand represents my past. Not just the good memories, but many of the troubling memories. And as I'm worrying about the past, that's like so much stuff in that suitcase. That's what makes it really, really heavy. And instead of just throwing the suitcase away, I find that's too difficult. There's also some good memories in there. How can I let it go without any worries or concern that somebody's going to make it disappear along with the good memories? So what I do, I imagine myself leaning to my left and lowering that suitcase gently to the ground. And as I lower it closer and closer to the ground, there's that magical moment when the suitcase touches the ground and all the weight vanishes. And that allows me to unloosen my grip, take my hand away from that suitcase, and then move my hand upwards, so my arm and shoulder can rest. The suitcase has not disappeared, it's safely by my side. Then I do the same to the suitcase in my right hand, which represents my future. All that stuff in the future which you can worry about, as well as your hopes and dreams. But the heavy stuff is mostly all the problems one's afraid of. And then one leans to the right, which allows you to lower that suitcase closer to the ground. And when it reaches the ground, the weight disappears, allowing you to pull your hand away from that suitcase which you've been carrying, and you forget about the future. So if you let go of the past and the future, and you look down, they're safe, no one is going to take those suitcases away, unfortunately. But nevertheless, you put them down on the ground. When you put them down on the ground, you notice your arms can recover from all that stress of holding heavy weights for too long a time. You feel your shoulders can expand and just feel more natural. They recover, they recuperate, and they become strong again. And if you wish to pick those suitcases up, you can. But you notice where you're staying right now, in this simile, is in the beautiful present moment, where you've got nothing much to handle, or nothing at all. It gives you the first sense of kind of freedom in meditation. You're in this present moment. And then once you're in the present moment, really getting into the present moment, right in the center of now, you find how pleasant it is. And it's the pleasure of being in the present moment, the pleasure of it, that allows you to relax and stay there. And every moment you get more focused in the present than before. And as you get more focused in the present moment, then you learn how to be silent. Sometimes I gave a simile of like being a host at a party, and you greet all the members as they come through the door. But all you can do is just maybe shake their hand. You can't say their names or any sort of small chat, because there's so many people coming in. If you talk to the first person you meet, the second person coming behind doesn't get any of your attention at all. So what it does, when you're really in the present moment like this, you can't say anything. So shake their hand or just wave, but you can't say anything because talking takes time. If I talk to any one of you, Venerable, see how I disturbed him? And he has to speak back? Sorry about that. But just this is what happens with speech. We do actually waste time. And so instead, as experiences come into our mind and go out of our mind, all we can do is to notice them, not to actually discuss things with them. And as you're in the moment, you start to become quiet, you find that peace is so beautiful. When no one says anything, or you just ignore whatever they say, you find life becomes so much more easy. You're not asked to do anything, you're not criticized, you're not praised. There's no problems arise, which means that you can be more and more peaceful. You're going deeper into the lotus flower. You're going into the present moment, into silence. I don't know why that people don't appreciate silence that much. Whenever we see anybody, we tend to talk with them. It's nice sometimes, you know someone so well, you don't need to talk. Just a little smile is more than enough communication. So anyway, as we get silent and peaceful, we find that the business which we have to do in our mind gets less and less and less. Because the business gets less, even the amount of breath which you need to keep your metabolism going gets less and less. And there's nothing else to watch except for your breathing. It just happens so naturally. You're sitting there in this present moment, in this silence, you relax the body as much as you can, and you're nice and comfortable. And the present moment, and silence become so gorgeous. It's like watching a sunset. As you watch the sunset, it's such a beautiful view, it satisfies you. You don't need to say anything or do anything or check your emails or just distract yourself. You don't want to miss a moment. And that's the kind of mindfulness which happens as you go deeper into the petals of the lotus that represents you. And as you're experiencing this, the breath comes up automatically. I've said this so many times to people, I honestly never go looking for my breath. I calm everything else down until there's nothing else left but my breathing. And so it's an unconditional awareness of the breath, unforced. You just watch the breath come in and go out, come in and go out. And there's not much needed because you're pretty still. Not even your brain is burning up much energy. And so from that breath it gets calmer and more peaceful. And as it gets calm and peaceful, if you do it in the correct way, you find you never feel tiredness. It's not like you want to fall asleep. It's you're perfectly aware of what's happening. And that awareness, it gets to a point, just like again watching a sunset. Watching a sunset takes time, but it also means that you're just aware, silently aware, no need to talk, no need to take photographs. You're just silently aware in a peaceful state, watching the development of the sun as it goes down in the evening. And as you do things like this, you may also notice the most beautiful sunsets occur when there's a bit of a smoke or clouds on the horizon. Those little clouds or wisps of smoke, they spread the beautiful redness across the horizon, making the whole horizon gold or crimson at the different stages of the sunset. And there's no way you can fall asleep. It's just way too beautiful. And then that makes the mind experience happiness and stillness. And then you don't need to do anything. The mindfulness and the kindness is already strong. There'll be more petals open up as you go deeper into your lotus, that is your body and mind. As you go deeper in, I've told many people on retreats, the next thing which happens is the breath becomes a beautiful breath. In other words, it's not just breathing in, it's wow, breathing in the most beautiful, delightful breath you've ever experienced. And then breathing out so gently, so naturally, but it's all combined with a sense of mental happiness, a joy which is not inherent in the sunset, it's not inherent in the breath. It's just the way the mind is so peaceful, sees so much, and sees everything as really, really beautiful. And as that happens, the mindfulness stays with the breathing and doesn't want to go anywhere. It just goes deeper into it, and inside that breathing, inside that layer of petals, then you go to the center of the breathing. There's just one way of putting it, which is you see the beauty without the breath happening. In one of the books which I wrote years ago, I called this like the Cheshire Cat in the book by Lewis Carroll on Alice. You saw a cat, was appearing and disappearing, appearing and disappearing. And then she mentioned to the cat, "You come and go so fast, it really makes it having a headache." So the cat said, "Okay, I'll vanish slowly." And described the cat vanishing part by part, the ears of the cat disappearing, the head disappearing, the eyes disappearing, the nose disappearing, until all that was left was the smiling lips of the cat. Cheshire cats are supposed to be always smiley. And so the Cheshire cat, all that was left were the smiling lips, until finally the lips disappeared, leaving only the smile. And I thought it was kind of cool at the time, that you have a smile with nothing doing the smiling. That was such a beautiful simile of how it occurs in meditation. The breath vanishes, but the happiness of the breath remains. And that happiness of the breath, once it remains, what you're seeing there is the thing which we call the mind, the citta. And there it's starting to appear as like a happiness. However, the way that people interpret that, the most common way is seeing it as a beautiful light in the mind. It's not a light. If you did open your eyes, you'd find there's no sunbeam shining through the windows, or there's no one with a flashlight shining in your face. It's just how we interpret the beautiful light coming from within the mind. And if you experience this many times, you find that light, whatever colour you interpret it as, is always more beautiful than any colour you can see in the real world. In the real world you may see a beautiful blue colour, but in the meditation it's more blue than blue. It's more white than white. Sometimes it's dazzling, but never mind, you'll never go blind. This is the way the mind is interpreting the happiness, the beauty. And as you go deep in that meditation, that light becomes stable. And as that light becomes stable and very, very beautiful, then those are the two things which you will see. Even the Buddha described what to do next. You're going deeper into your lotus. And inside of that is a beautiful, stable light. And inside of that is the piti sukha, the happiness and joy which remain, which become your first jhana experience. And of course, if you do experience that, and you wonder what's the second jhana, you stay in that first jhana. And then you go deeper into it. And you go deeper into that, and deeper into that. And you go through all these beautiful jhanas, and more things disappear, and more beautiful things remain. So you're going, letting go of what's on the outside, like the outermost petals, and you go into the inner petals. And inside the inner petals is the more inside petals. They just open one after the other as you go deep inside. So that is an approximation, a simile, to the way of meditation here. And as usually I've talked too much. I apologize for that, but I find it's useful to tell that simile. So now, if you are not in your meditation posture already, see if you can adjust your body on the chair, on the cushion, or on the armchair. For those people who wonder, there's another armchair there as well. Somebody brought another one while I was away. And that's excellent. So if anyone wants to use armchair number 2, you're most welcome. Don't be embarrassed, please. So anyway, so now get your body nice and comfortably as you think you can. You'll soon find you become an expert on the awareness of the body to find the most comfortable position for it. Excellent. So now we can begin the meditation. You don't need to be concerned about anything. Towards the end of the meditation, I will ring the gong just before 4 p.m. to let you know the meditation period of stillness has ended. So I'm putting all my awareness plus kindness onto my body. It's the general getting to know my body at the beginning. I do notice my sinuses are a bit inflamed. But other than that, my body feels really relaxed. But now I'm going to take that relaxation to a much deeper level. When I left Vietnam, the people asked me for a statement, something to remember me by. So I got them all to repeat what I taught once in South Korea. Relax to the max. The most important part of that was to the max. See how much you can relax your body. And I usually do this by focusing on parts of my body and sweeping that attention upwards, starting from my toes. I am now putting all my awareness on my toes. I can feel them. And I add the second ingredient of kindness. I'm kind to my toes. And I'm adjusting my legs because of that kindness to make my toes even more comfortable. Mindfulness comes first, and then the light, and then the warmth of kindness. And as I'm kind to my toes, you can feel them. And my right toe is a bit squashed, in that angle between my calves and my thighs. So I just moved again. And then I'm mindful again of my toes. And it's like they say thank you. This is not restlessness. Because every time there's a purpose behind this, that is to make my toes more and more comfortable. I kind of like practicing on my toes, because it's like a training to relax other parts of my body which are way more sensitive. When my toes say thank you, that's how my mindfulness works. I ask them questions. I move them, adjust them, relax them to the max. And this is the result I get. My toes feel actually so much more comfortable. And then I move upwards on my feet to the balls of my feet. And I find just through awareness and adding kindness, I can relax them more deeply than when I started. The awareness allows me to relax, and the kindness is the method by which it all relaxes. And I go to the soles of my feet. My feet feel fine there. Go to the heels of my feet. They feel pretty at ease. And the uppers of my feet. If there's any part of your feet which need a bit more attention, please take the time to give it to your feet. And always have that kindness as the medicine. I said yesterday, and I said many times over it when I was teaching a retreat in Vietnam, I taught many times that I remember my mother, if ever I injured my legs playing soccer in the street, I would cry. 5 or 6 years of age, and then she would run towards me, lean down, inspect the wound. And a lot of times all she would do was put her lips on that wound to kiss it better. And that's all I needed. The kindness of a mother to her son. And as soon as she kissed it better, the pain went away, and off I was playing soccer again. It never got infected. The kindness was the great panacea. And that's what I'm doing now to my feet. It's like my feet, like separate beings, say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then for my ankles, I go up to my lower legs, the calves, and the bones inside, and all the other tubes taking stuff up and down to keep my feet and my legs healthy. It's like I look at them with gratitude and kindness, and then they all relax a bit more. I don't know, there's no pain or aches there, but this method reduces any possible aches or pain later on. I go to my knees. So many people have sore knees by accidents, playing sort of aggressive sport, or just sitting too long. When I start my meditation, I look at my 2 knees. I imagine them expanding. So any pipes carrying blood or lymph or whatever else, they never get blocked. When they expand, things flow through them, up and down, without ever getting clogged. And my knees feel fine and happy. They also, like human beings, the parts of your body appreciate attention. So I'm giving every part of my body my attention and gratitude. And then I go up my thighs. I don't usually have any problems there, but I don't just assume they're healthy. I sweep my attention upwards, relaxing everything to the max, using the mindfulness and kindness, the light and warmth of the sun. and my thighs relax. It's kind of a weird sensation, but I often feel like my thighs are sinking into the cushion. They're not held tight, they're not afraid, but they're at peace with the cushion which I'm sitting on. And the top of the thighs, I come to my buttocks, and that part of my body always has a sensation when I'm sitting down. It is the pressure of my upper part of my body passing through my buttocks onto the cushion so I can be supported. I can feel that sensation, and I make sure at the very beginning of meditation that that sensation is well balanced. A little bit of pressure on the right buttock, a little bit on the left buttock, so that when it's balanced, you know it's been cared for, and I know that after a minute or two, that feeling disappears. And when it does, I recognize I've now relaxed my body from the waist down to the toes. And that part of my body feels so at ease. And then my waist, I have a belt up to keep my lower robe on. It's a little bit tight, but not that tight, because I know that that's not going to disturb me. I know from experience, if your robes aren't on properly or too tightly bound with a belt, that might hurt later on. But I check it out and I think it's fine. And I also notice the position of my waist, so the upper part of my body is comfortable. And I just allow my body to be in that position. It's a kind of a strong position, not leaning forward, not leaning back, needing no support. Just a good posture to begin with. And then I go scanning my awareness and kindness up the body. And I usually use the digestive tract as I go up my colon. And my sort of digestive system is pretty relaxed, especially because we don't eat in the afternoon. So for the last 3 hours, my colon, intestine have been in just do nothing mode. And they kind of like that. Have a chance to relax to the max. But as I sweep my attention upwards, getting closer and closer to my stomach, if I feel any part of my lower body is aching or hurting, unusually so, then I'll pause there and give extra kindness. The kindfulness, I imagine, has the same effect as my mother kissing it better. I couldn't believe just how immediately the pain went away. Now immediately you can relax parts of your inner body and the ache and the pain get less. I still keep going up my intestines. to my tummy, my stomach. That's pretty peaceful this afternoon. But nevertheless, I'll check everything there. And what's amazing is when you practice mindfulness, you can be aware of these parts of your body, your own awareness. It's like doing an expensive scan of your body. You can feel it, you know your body better than the machine knows it. And I'm relaxing my stomach muscles. And just above the stomach muscles are my lungs. They've been having a hard time the last couple of weeks, simply because I had a cough. And that cough, it's not the same cough, it matures and changes as it heals. And then my poor lungs have been extra working. So I'm kind to my lungs, aware of them, but then kind as well. Honestly, the response I feel is like a big thank you from my lungs. Because I trust them. And from my lungs I go to my heart region. And I give that a lot of peace with mindfulness and kindness. It's amazing when you practice like this, you get to know your own body and different parts of it. And then I go up from my heart, physical heart, up to my shoulders. Usually I can feel some aches in my shoulders. And I know if I don't put my shoulders in a good position, they can ache and disturb my meditation. So I've learned many ways of relaxing my shoulders. Often I imagine that the muscles of my shoulders are like two connected bunches of strings, one on either side of my spine. And those strings, for one reason or another, have got tense. My job is to loosen the outer end, so there's no tightness or tension on those muscles at all. I experiment a lot, so find better ways of doing that. The mindfulness gives you feedback, which means you get more efficient at relaxing any muscle which you're mindful of with kindness. When my shoulders are as relaxed as they could be, I let my attention, my mindfulness and kindness sweep down my arms from the shoulders to the elbows, making sure the elbows, like my knees, are free, relaxed, so any healing can happen. Going down from my elbows to my wrists, and relaxing those wrists. It's amazing how your body appreciates, you looking after it. And it comes to help and make sure that everything relaxes to the max. And I feel my hands and my fingers. And as I said last night, I ask my fingers, are you comfortable where you are? Do you want any sort of movement or scratching, or what would you like? That's the kindness part of things. The mindfulness can actually feel. And then my fingers, I help adjust them. Sometimes on short meditations, is wherever my fingers happen to be, but on a long meditation like this, I find my fingers go into this position of right palm over the left palm, thumbs slightly touching. They're comfortable like that. And then I go back up to my shoulders. And I look at my neck. I make sure my head is not too far forward, not too far back, not to the left, not to the right. And often I like just to move it backwards a tiny bit. Kind of keeps me more alert. I'm also aware of my throat, where sometimes a tiny irritation can make a very loud cough. But right now, my throat is at ease. I do not need to cough. Then I go up past the throat to my head. And the place I usually put my awareness at first is on my face, especially the muscles around the eyes, the nose and the mouth. As your physical feature can show whether you're tense, afraid, kind, relaxed, just the way the muscles are configured on the face. So I make sure that any connection with fear or anger or anything which screws up those muscles is put away, and I let my face relax. And that's as far as I can go. So I join my parts of the body together, checking one last time. And my body feels really, really well positioned. But I don't discard it yet. I'll wait a few seconds to experience a well-positioned body has a feeling of pleasure to it. It feels good, feels relaxed. And that relaxation does have a sense of pleasure. And when I notice that, and it comes now, when I notice it, It's not indulgence in a sense pleasure. It actually causes the relaxation to go deeper. That's why I do it. My body now is almost perfectly relaxed. And now's the time to go inside that layer of petals of my lotus, my body. The body is at ease enough to not to disturb me. The first place I go to is in the center of time. If you find it hard to be really in the present, because you've got things to worry about, or things you feel are unfair, then imagine those two heavy suitcases. One with your past, all of your past, and the other one with your future. When you hold them all the time, you get so weakened and so tired. Now you just imagine leaning to the left, which allows you to lower the suitcase in your left hand, your past, all of your past, allows you to lower it to the ground. And once it meets the ground, then you realize how heavy that weight was. You're still holding the handle. So uncurl the fingers from the handle. Move your hand upwards together with your arm. Straighten your back and allow your left arm and hand to recover, to get strong, pain-free. Then you notice the suitcase in your right hand, your future. Because the future is uncertain, sometimes we have all sorts of possibilities and responses. Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. Even though the thing hasn't happened yet, the suitcase in your right hand is always packed solid. And you lower that suitcase to the ground, leaning to the right, lowering it to the ground. And when that moment happens, the earth takes the weight of that suitcase. You feel free, but you still have to move your hand away from the handle. Straighten the back and let your right arm, hand, shoulder all relax to the max. A very simple exercise, but it does the job of helping you let go of the real past and the real future. And you can do that. It's not doing something you're not supposed to do. It's allowed, it makes you stronger. And as for the future, I always say that now is where the future is made. Now is the only place you can do anything about the future. You've done a beautiful job by putting it down and relaxing in the present moment. Those petals of time have opened out. You're in the now. It's a beautiful place to hang out. You notice so many things that you kind of have hardly seen before. There's so much beauty occurring in the present moment. But to really get deeply into the present moment, petals, We stop trying to describe things in words. We stop thinking. And instead we know. We can feel. And that feels really nice. The layer of petals at this stage are kind of very beautiful, fragrant. And because there's nothing to do, this is why this is usually the place where the breath comes to me. It's always happening, the breathing. Now I've got nothing interfering with my awareness of the breath. But I must not forget the kindness. I'm kind to my breath. I'm not going to tell the breath how to breathe. My job is only just to hold its hand, metaphorically, as it brings oxygen to my body, pauses, and takes the waste products out, and pauses and does the same again. And I trust my breathing. I never ever want to tell it what to do. And the awareness of the breath becomes so easy, because it's enjoyable. I haven't forced it. It's there very easily. And I'm kind to it. And all of those levels of meditation in Anapanasati, you just notice them happen automatically. Until your breathing appears delightful. It's not just breathing in air, it's also breathing in joy as well. Breathing out joy. This is where the mind, when it sees things in peace and stillness, really appreciates it. If you stay like this a long time, you'll experience the joy of just simply breathing with not a care in the world. And as you're breathing in and out, soon the joy increases. As the joy increases, let the joy petals dominate the breathing. So the breath is still there, but it's in the background. The pleasure is something which you can't avoid noticing. Like the sunset, your perception of sun kind of disappears, but the beauty of a sunset remains. And you see that beauty in such a deeper, more full way. I'm going to be calm now, and quiet, and let you experience the last 5 minutes of the meditation in silence. very close to the end of the meditation now. The final outcome. How do you feel? What did you experience? And why? This is where you get the insight, the understanding from going deep into your lotus of how meditation works and how beautiful is the result. Just pause for one more minute. Thank you. I always felt the ringing of the gong, 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 gong. It was just too coarse. So thank you for allowing me just to let the bell resonate. Now we usually have opportunities for questions and answers, but I usually like doing the Q&A from the computer first of all. Question number 1 from UK. How does one practice letting go when meditating? It's easy. You don't practice it. You observe it happening. You observe it happening. You don't do it. You let it happen. When everything else, how do you learn how to watch a sunset? It's not what you do. You can see the beauty and make sure you're not disturbed. That's like with meditation. Find a nice quiet chair to sit on, or a nice cushion. Relax to the max. And then it's not what you do. The body and the mind incline towards that. Question 2. How can we maintain kindness in our daily lives, in relationships at work and with others? How can we maintain metta? Find out what interferes with metta. What interferes with kindness? It's the question, why not be kind? Why not have metta? You will find that everything is much more successful, much easier. Look, because I just returned from teaching in Vietnam, one of the places where I taught, a little company, and in the company they had a room. They called it the kindfulness room. So in that place they made sure that there's a new strategy they had, and they said that any member of staff at any time of the day could always go into that kindfulness room to relax to the max. Because sometimes at work you get stressed out, sometimes you're very tired. If that's the case, go into that room for a quarter of an hour, half an hour. Don't take any computer in there with you. And when you're in there, you really, really do relax. And when you go back to your office space or partition space in front of your computer, you'll find your mind is re-energized. Which means that your productivity goes up. I did mention the story, I've told this to many of you before, that first book which I wrote, Opening the Door of Your Heart. Just how easy that was to write. 60% of it was completed in 14 days, working just 1 hour per day, strictly just 1 hour, all written out by hand. Hardly any mistakes. There's no typos, because I never typed it, I wrote it. A beautiful style. And if ever you want to check me out, go to the WA Museum. There's a copy of it on there on display. And what part of the museum is it in? I've never been in there, but anyway, it's supposed to be in there. But even I have the original as well. And just looking at it, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful writing. Simply because I was mindful when I did it. And that I was maintaining kindfulness for that 1 hour of work, because I was practicing kindfulness beforehand and afterwards. I was doing on a meditation retreat. And I noticed the power of that mindfulness and kindness, how it enhances the power of your mind. That's how you can maintain metta and kindness. Whatever place you work, have a kindfulness room, even at home. It's amazing how many rooms people have in their home. Why not just devote one room to silence and kindness? And last question, how to help a teenager with anxiety? I think it's because the teenager sometimes trusts the world when they're young, very young. And once they get to be a teenager, they find out that life is just, you can't always control it. Don't try to control life for a teenager. Let them explore life and realize the consequences of life are just easily manageable. One of the things is, if your teenager makes a mistake, what do you do? How do you react? You say that life is about making mistakes. That's what life means. So if your teenager makes a mistake, that's where we learn. I always remember my teacher, Ajahn Brahm, because whenever I made a mistake, he would think it's so funny. Even, most of you have probably heard this, that in those early days, even his monastery was very poor. If I needed some, say, soap, because, we'd run out, I'd go to his hut and say, "Can I have some soap, please?" But Ajahn Brahm could not speak English. I had to learn the Thai word for soap, which was sabu. I said sapo. Instead of sabu, sapo. I think it's close enough. But sapo means pineapple. And he always he burst out laughing. He said, "What do you need a pineapple for?" "To wash." He never let me forget that. He went around telling all the other visitors, "Oh, in UK, they're far more advanced. than here in Thailand. In the UK, they wash with pineapples. I created so much humour for him. He laughed so much every time I made a mistake. He never got angry. It was just a stupid thing done by a so-called smart Westerner. So that's actually how I overcame anxiety. I mean, you don't make mistakes, you just make your teacher laugh. And why be anxious about that? I was actually looking to make more mistakes as a gift to my teacher so he could laugh more. Okay, thank you for those questions. Anything from the floor? Eddie? Is that, okay, no, it's quiet. Okay.
The workplace. Oh, I was going to. The workplace stress is very critical, no, Ajahn Brahm?
The workplace is critical.
Yeah, it's everywhere, especially in profit-oriented organizations. This thing.
Oh, I think the BSWA organization is not authoritative, is it? Is it hard to work for the BSWA?
No, not BSWA. I mean in outside work.
Well,
like, for example, my place of work, looking back, all right, yeah.
People should be more like the BSWA.
Yeah.
Have lots of fun, lots of joy, have much more energy. And people like to work here. Is that the case? I better be.
I remember my place of work,
yeah,
I was regarded like a guru among the staff,
Great.
All problems come to me, this thing, and I help them solve the problem.
Excellent. But you help them also with a kindness and a smile.
Yeah.
That's like an Ajahn Chah. He was my boss. So when I was in hospital with a terrible fever, he came so kindly to visit me. And his advice was very brief. He didn't have much time, but so wonderful. He told me, said, I'm either going to get better or I'm going to die. Either way, the disease won't last. It's not the answer I expected. But please, if any of you have someone who's sick in hospital, you can use that. You know they're not going to last. They're either going to get better, or okay, enough about that. Another question.
Yeah, I actually work at a hospital, and
I'm in trouble now.
There's a little chapel there, which is quite a good spot for meditation, on your lunch break and things like that. But often there's people in there that are going through really tough times. They might have a relative that's dying, or they might be dying themselves. So it can be quite heavy in there. Do you have any advice for meditating
Yes.
in that kind of environment?
Please go in that chapel and meditate. Your quietness will calm the other people down. They notice that not everybody needs to take on a tragedy and overreact to it. When I say this, you all know this story, where opening the door of your heart statement came from my father. When he told me, whatever you do in your life, however your life turns out, please always remember the door of my heart will always be open to you. I loved him for that. It was unconditional loving kindness. So when he died, I was only 16, I was there in my parents' bedroom trying to wake up my father. He wouldn't wake up, he was dead. And I never felt sad. Kind of weird. The reason I never felt sad was because I remembered all the beautiful things he'd done for me. I thought, what a great dad that was. So honestly, at his funeral service, if I had the courage, I would have done what I felt. Stood up and clapped. Well done, Dad. Later on, when I contemplated, how can I feel like that? It's your dad, you loved him so much. And then later on, I thought it was like going to one of these great concerts. And sometimes I felt so fortunate to have been in those great concerts. I know the concert has to end. But before it ends, you go, encore, encore, hooray, play another tune, another song. And sometimes you do hear the encore. And that's just an extra blissful moment. But I know every time I walked out out of the concert hall, one of those great performances, I never cried. Never once.
Do you think that the energy of the environment that you're in can have an effect on
yeah.
you and your meditation?
It can have an effect. It's something you want to change. So you go into that chapel and change that environment. Have it a peaceful, happy place. I can always remember that story with a couple of people here. They took that advice and they made this house and they had their meditation room. It was way before Harry Potter. They put their meditation room under their stairs. And they told their two children, don't go under the stairs, this is Mum and Dad's meditation room. And then one day, it's a beautiful story, they had a boy and a girl, and they were very young, 7 or